Oh my gosh, it's me, Glenn Morris. Look, little apologies from DJ Glenmo. He couldn't make it today. I was probably out doing a gig or something. But anyway, he sent me as Cuzzy Bro. I'm Glenn Morris, the manager of the Smart Energy Lab here. And he didn't actually tell me that I shouldn't push the button for the smoke machine for too long. So it kind of looks like the whole place is on fire, but you know what it is. It's a bit of atmospherics. It's kind of crazy, isn't it? Yeah. Today, I've got my special guest, Mark Cavanagh from MC Electrical, along again, and we're going to chat about, you guessed it, probably Sig Energy and other industry things. So let me just bring my guest on board. Anyway, welcome. Where are you at the moment?
Where am I? I've come into the office. So, just into my studio. So,
yeah, well, thanks for pulling a work job in the middle of a lovely Sunday. So, yeah, I appreciate you turning up.
Nothing better than coming in on a Sunday and getting humiliated by someone, the expert in the industry. So, looking forward to it.
Hey, well, the elephant in the room is definitely your video on your experience with Sig Energy and my kind of rebuttal of some of the points. So let's dive into it. Where do you want to start?
Where do we want to start? So I think we agreed this is gloves off, right? We can just be really honest and open and say what people think in the industry. And I thought it'd be good if we started with our motivations, because I think we both get called out sometimes of going, you're just doing this basically for the money, is the short of it. So I'm going to have a crack at you first, and then you're too polite. So then that gives you permission to have a crack at me back. How's that?
Okay, go.
Do you get paid by manufacturers to review products? Is that correct?
I do. Yep.
Yeah. So is that the motivation? Do you just jump in and only review, just give glowing reviews? Is that the motivation with Sig Energy? Are you just backing them because I'm being the devil's advocate or whatever here, right? Are you just backing Sig Energy because you're getting paid for it?
Okay, I'll give you a bit of background then. So about 10 years ago, I think, yes, 10 years now, I started running training courses here at the Smart Energy Lab. And the very first company, I think, was Cellectronic, and then SMA donated some equipment so my students could train. Then in 2017, I realized I could actually make some content and share information, so I started doing that. Then I started getting contacted by companies saying, "Oh, we'd like to donate some equipment to your lab so you can feature it on your channel." And so that was basically just a donation, no money changing hands. But more recently, it's become quite a business, and so I employ an electrician who does the installs for me. So I've got costs which I have to cover. And so I will say, yes, I'll do a product. I like to call them reveals. I don't do really teardowns. I'm not quite as deep as that. I'll more just talk about the features of a product and our experience with installing it. I won't be going, this is the worst product in the world. I'm not really that kind of reviewer. And so I charge to cover my costs for installing it and my time. So, yeah, there is a fee associated with it. I've made over 600 videos now on YouTube. I've probably done every inverter on the Australian market except Tesla, I think.
Is that right?
So you could say, yeah, I know. Wow. And other products in the smart energy world as well. But I'm also a little bit of a Robin Hood, I suppose. If something is, I really like it, and it's not a big deal for me to make a video, so like an unboxing. Sometimes I just do those for free. So you've probably seen ones for companies like Catch Power, for Plentify. I'm sure they leave the product with me, but we're talking a product under worth a few $100s, right? So it's not like, and often it's just sits on the shelf. I don't even have a use for it. I actually have a problem with having too many inverters. I'm always trying to find homes for them because I can't sell them. It's usually part of the deal. I'm not allowed to sell the product. And I try and find a new home at one of the facilities here at Murmura Co-op. So we've got like 30 homes here. And so a lot of these homes have systems that used to be in my lab. So that's how it works.
Yeah, okay, sure. Yeah, okay. So to go further on that point, I reckon, like I don't doubt. I think when you do an unboxing of some new Chinese inverter, you're not endorsing it. You're getting paid for that. Fair enough. It's just an unboxing, no big deal. And it doesn't mean you've tested it and you back it. I don't think you're disingenuous enough that, you're getting paid so much money by Sig Energy that you're only being positive just because they're paying you. I think I know you better than that, and your intentions. What I do think though is I think my motivation and your motivation come from a different place, in the sense that maybe you're normally a positive kind of person, and it is in your interest to see the positive in a product. Where for me, it is my vested interest. What keeps me up at night is to find the negative in a product, because I don't want to bring that product on, because then I have this massive liability. Like if we jumped into Sig Energy and it turned out to be a dud of a product, we end up having this massive liability. So the reason that I'm hypercritical, and I think you're on the other end of the spectrum, is I guess just different motivations, different places we're coming from, you know?
Yeah, I think you're right there. I mean, I do have some of the grief when I have a product that is really difficult to install with poor support, and often I get premium support because I'm making some content for them. So I hate to think what it's like if you're not getting premium support. But yeah, I mean, just to be specific about Sig Energy, for instance, the video I made, kind of like, you know, refuting some of your points, that was a volunteer. I didn't get paid to make that. I just kind of felt like I need to clear the air. But they have provided me with a system which I have made videos on. There was no money changed hands on that either, because I thought it was a fair exchange to have a 32 kilowatt hour battery and a 10 kilowatt inverter. You know, that was fair exchange for me.
Pretty decent payment.
And look, I think I've had 6 different systems on my home now, so there's no guarantee it's going to stay there either. Even though I like it, I often just like to experience products more directly. And a lot of the systems that are in the lab are often feeding loads, so it's not like sits on the wall and looks pretty. So I like to kind of test stuff a bit, but maybe I could take your point, is that you have to bear the warranty responsibilities of a product. If things go wrong, I can just kind of put it in the bin.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
And I have.
Yeah. I used to get given a lot of products by manufacturers, or offered a lot of products, and I'd test them. The problem is I'd then give them a bad review. So people are, don't necessarily want to give me products anymore. So, anyway.
I do have another motivation too, which is because I'm the Smart Energy Council's rep on standards, I kind of need to know as much as I can about products in the industry and how their standards kind of fit with them. So I often will write reports for companies about products which are yet to be released. And those are paid reports, so they're not public either. So they'll send me a product and I'll kind of look at it and go, well, you haven't got a DC isolator, it's single pole, it's not double pole, etc. So I'm doing what I'd call field test reports for them. But it also means that all the products that I've seen, I can then feed that into the committee and say, look, you're suggesting something that's not practical. I remember when type B RCDs were being looked at as a compulsory requirement. And I said, they're so expensive. It should be if the inverter requires it, not just a default.
Right, sure. Yeah, okay, fair enough. Yeah, I think we've got something in common, is that we're both just nerds that like pulling apart products, right? So and testing products. So that's another big motivation, I guess. So,
yeah. Do you want to burrow into some of the points what we discussed, or with our different videos?
Sure. Yeah. Okay. Oh, what I do want to say though, because I got a lot of negative comments on my video, and I think what I wanted to make clear is that it's not like we're suffering with sales with BYD. On the 3rd of July, we're booked out for the rest of the calendar year, with installs. So we're not losing sales to Sig Energy or anything like that. I'm not, clasping at straws just to make sure, I've jumped on the wrong ship and, now my business is failing. It's just that I've got an opinion about a product. I want to get it out there. So, yeah.
Yeah, fair enough. I mean, I think there's a brand loyalty which shines through, because when you know a product really well and you know the people, and there's often a community around them. I mean, Fronius, for instance, has a amazing support and community presence. You go to Solar Cutters and there they are. So that's a pretty feel-good thing too to be associated with. So I can understand, brand loyalties are a big part of why you choose a product.
Yeah, and whether you realise it or not, I might think it's completely technical, but obviously it's not. We're complex people, so yeah.
So you said you've installed 3 systems. I mean, we saw the one in the video. How did the other ones go? 3 Sigs?
Yeah, good. The installers really liked installing them. So, in a lot of there are a lot of positives about the product. It is I can see why it's such a tempting product. It's crazy how massively it's taken off. But yeah, the installers were happy with the commissioning. Happy with how it went together. Generally speaking, yeah.
Yeah, that's totally the feedback you see on all the forums. I mean, my pitch is this is a iPhone moment for the industry. What Sig Energy have done is what Apple did with bringing out the iPhone. They've come up with a product, particularly for the residential market, that is just great for both the customer and the installer. And everyone's going to be copying it. Already we see Fronius with the Reserve, though it's not an inverter, but it's a very nice looking battery system, stackable. Good, we have an almost exact copy of Sigen Store physically. When someone has a great idea, people copy it, and that's fair enough because it's a great idea. So they're just leading the pack. I mean, I think they're over 30-something% of the Australian market in 1 year. That's just unheard of.
Yeah, it's insane. Yeah. Yeah, no, I totally agree. It is an iPhone moment. I think people are going to copy them, yeah, for sure. I mean, they are already, right? So, yeah.
What are your other concerns?
What are my other concerns? Should we go through those, I think, 4 points that I had on the video?
Yeah, sure.
So, one is I was wrong on the plastic part. But I should have had this ready. But the warranty, this is a sort of funny story. But the warranty for the plastic cover says there's a 2-year warranty for the lights in the plastic cover. I read that as and. I'll tell you the reason that the first time I read that was actually I was on a call when I was still trying to decide whether to go ahead with Sig Energy or not, talking to their one of their engineers. And he was a really good engineer and a terrible sales guy. And he was agreeing with me that the plastic was, a bit flimsy or whatever. And I'm like, that's my biggest concern is that I've got to go and do truck rolls when this thing breaks in the next 10 years. And he's like, oh, actually, it's a 2-year warranty. So it was him that told me. I didn't. I don't know if that has changed, to be fair, in the warranty document. But clearly I read it wrong. But it did say that it does say that it's a 2-year warranty on something like on the lights and other flimsy products. I don't know. That's not the word they used,
Actually, I've got it in front of me if you want. I'll just read that paragraph. Besides the above product, which is a list of all their different Sigen Store configurations, for consumable parts such as strip lights in decorative cover, the warranty period provided by Sig Energy is 2 years. So consumable parts such as strip lights.
Right, that's a little bit different than I read it. Before,
this
but
was published
it did say it's not
29th
just
of April this year. So they have updated their warranty document. In fact, one notable change, I'm not sure if it affects you, is for off-gridders, is that there was a clause that said if the system lost internet connection for more than 90 days, it would basically go into safe mode, which meant if you're off-grid, you had no power, which wasn't really very appealing. There was quite a lot of people complaining about that. And what do you know? Sig Energy changed their warranty to say that it would just be a reduced warranty of 5 years if it wasn't connected to the internet. And that's because they're really concerned about the safety of their batteries and maintaining firmware that's, not bug-free. So, yeah, they changed their warranty to suit that.
Yeah, okay. Actually, no, you're right. I was actually looking at a 2024 warranty document when I was reading that. So when it sort of said and other parts,
right. Yeah, so that changed as well. I mean, if people are concerned about the 2-year warranty on their strip lights, don't turn them on.
Yeah, to me that's still okay. So that still annoys me, as in why build a product that and then put a 2-year warranty on something like. Just if you're building a product to last 10 years, make the whole thing to last 10 years. The strip lights aren't going to last. Just get rid of that gimmick, So,
it is a gimmick. It's not in any way functional to the operation of the system, but it looks nice.
Yeah.
Little lights running up and down.
It does.
Did you notice at Christmas time they had Christmas tree lights? So it would do red and green sort of like a Christmas tree.
Is that right? Okay.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah. Okay. Very Tesla-esque, right? Having.
yeah.
So, yeah. Yeah. Okay. Cool. So I think the next part then was I said that the cables and the clips and the multi-pin connectors and all that kind of thing weren't UV resistant. Um, you said they don't need to be because they're behind a cover. Why do we need stainless steel cable ties underneath the panel? They're not in direct sun either.
Good point. So high ozone environments, such as on a roof in the sun, actually rots plastics. So it's a high ozone environment. You could say the same might be true if that inverter is sitting in direct sunlight, but that's actually against the installation instructions not to install in direct sunlight. So I don't think you have a high ozone situation. I think the cable tie one also relates to just cables falling onto a roof and therefore blocking leaf litter, etc., and potentially causing earth problems, with water flowing over those MC4 connectors. But a connector behind a cover without
I would have thought. I
UV
thought
rating?
the reason for cable ties is ties. Maybe you gave a more clear answer there, but it's just reflective UV. That you can still, even though you're not in direct sunlight, you can get a reflective UV.
Yeah, actually, when we discussed that in committee, someone pointed out that the plastic cable ties on their rose bushes was falling off after 2 or 3 years. And that got us kind of going, solar panels are in a similar situation to your rose bush. So you've got to provide mechanical support for your cables, and that's really just AS3000 being applied in a very specific way in 5033.
Yeah. So I do think the same applies to the battery. Is that so? You're not allowed to install it in direct sun at all, ever in sun, or
pretty much every battery system that I've read the installation guidelines for, which I could pull it up, don't recommend installing direct sunlight because you're basically heating up the battery. So if you're in Brisbane in summer and full sun all day long, that's going to have an effect on the life of those batteries.
Sure, not in the northern face, but you're going to be really limited if you can't put a battery on the eastern face with morning sun, right?
Yeah, I think there's going to be some flexibility about what's considered full sun, like full day sun. But the BYD batteries I've got here, my installer pointed out that the sunlight was actually at certain times of the year in wintertime coming through and shining onto the circuit breaker behind the clear cover, and that the circuit breaker isn't UV rated, so we actually had to put some cover over that clear to stop sun getting on it.
Right. Sure. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Either way, I think having a tiny flimsy little cable, like those little tiny little white cable tie plug-in things, and a few of the cables for that self too, like 0.7 mil cable or something like that in the back there, is just not a sturdy build. To me, that just doesn't feel like how a product should be built. So.
Yeah, I have seen people who've basically bundled all the cables together to kind of give it a bit more rigid support in there with cable ties. So rather than have those, as you described, flimsy little cables floating around, they've tidied it up, as you do with your wiring.
Yeah, fair enough. Yeah. Okay. Move on. What was the next point that you called me out on?
Hang on. See, I think I had a list there somewhere. Where was it in my notes? Warranty on the gateway. The 5-year warranty had exclusions.
Yes. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. I think you made sort of a fair point. Is that circuit breakers, but it sort of said that list is long of what is excluded. It sort of says and other parts. So it's not just the breakers. So it feels like it's most of the parts inside the gateway. You kind of make a fair point in that contactors don't come with a 5-year warranty off the shelf when you go to the wholesaler. I think when you're designing a product and and you know how many times that contactor is going to cycle and things like that, you can estimate that. You should be able to build it to be durable for at least the 5 years. If nothing, I feel it's a little bit of a, everyone's going, oh, Gateway's got 5-year warranty. Well, no, it doesn't. Like, that's not the reality. The whole of the Gateway doesn't.
Yeah. I mean, not a lot of products actually include circuit breakers as part of their product, for, like the AC side. Generally, it's just an isolation of the DC. So they've provided quite a lot of extra switchboard components, really. And if you were to build a switchboard, you'd be buying components that come with a 2-year warranty anyway, like circuit breakers from your wholesaler. So they're probably reflecting the natural warranty of the product they're using.
Yeah, okay. And they do kind of have a sort of a fairly wide disclaimer of basically everything else, in that board, Yeah, I don't know. Like, I don't know that that's a huge point, but I think it's a reality is that you're not getting a 5-year warranty on that Gateway.
Yeah, they do offer a 10-year. It's the usual story. You pay a little bit more and you get a 10-year warranty on the Gateway with some exclusions, of course. Yep.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, sure. Okay, what was the next one?
The EV charger being expensive.
Yeah. I think it is. You said it wasn't expensive. I kind of think, I can get an EV charger for, Tesla EV charger for $700. This costs about 10 times that, if not more. I know it does a different thing, but it's not a cheap product, right? So it's not a, oh yeah, I'll just chuck one of those in while I'm at it. It's an investment.
Are you referring to the AC or the DC charger option?
The DC.
Okay. So for a start, it's a lot more powerful. I mean, there's 12 kilowatt and 25 kilowatt versions.
Yeah.
I've got the 25, which my partner loves because she always last minute thinks she has to charge the car before she's going out.
Yeah.
Just to, for those not familiar with DC chargers, they're quite different. I mean, they're actually the device that converts AC to DC, whereas your so-called wall charger that many people refer to as a EV charger is actually just supply equipment. You know all this, of course. And so it's got a different job to do. It's doing conversion as well as control. I've got a 50 kilowatt Delta fast charger here. It costs $65,000. Now, when you consider that a 25 kilowatt charger from Sig Energy in the stack is a fraction of that, I think around about a sixth of the price.
Yeah, right. Well, and what's the warranty on the Delta? 3 years as well,
I don't know. Actually, to tell the truth, I didn't have to pay for it because it was old and they didn't want it anymore. They were probably going to throw it out.
Okay, sure, yeah.
Early vintage. Yep. But that's what they are expensive. And also one big differentiating factor with the Sig Energy product, it's bi-directional now. So it's not like, you kind of have to go, if you buy a Pulsar from Quasar from Wallbox, I mean, they're about $11,000 for 10 kilowatts. So this is 25 kilowatts bi-directional for less than that.
Yeah, sure. As long as you've got the right EV, or it's actually going to end up pairing with more cars than it is currently,
Yeah, we're in this kind of limbo where we're waiting for the car manufacturers to say, yes, it's okay. I mean, technically it's possible with a whole range of cars, but the manufacturer has to consider the implications on their warranty. Like if you start to cycle the car every day, you're using it in a way that maybe they hadn't planned under their warranty.
Yeah. It'll be interesting to see how that goes. I tend to think that, generally EV manufacturers are going to be conservative with that and choose to pair with one or two, but we'll see,
Well, you might find it's a sales lead, though, so that could be another positive reason they might want to do it. Say, our car can run your house as well as you drive your kids around.
Yeah. Yeah, it is a case, though. It's like when SunGrow said, we'll come on their SH5K, their original hybrid inverter, they paired with just about everyone, and I think they realized pretty quickly that was a bad idea, the amount of support that you need and that kind of thing. So, we'll see what happens. Yeah, so we made a stupid mistake on that one too, where I hadn't really thought about this, but I'd thought that the EV charger because I saw the cable coming out the bottom. I thought, oh, look, it goes on the bottom. And Yorick goes, no, it goes on the top. And then Yorick just decided it goes on the top and bottom. So people love the fact that we had no idea about the EV charger. Tore me to shreds because we didn't know where to put it. But fair enough, got it wrong.
So the stackable design, which isn't unique. I mean, I think BYD was the first stackable battery that I saw, and I thought this is changing everything, as I do, because it was such a clever idea. No more cables, no more connections that could fail that you haven't secured properly. No more exposed cables. I thought it was a great idea. But the stackability, meaning that you can change components in that stack, is great. Like you can mix Sig Energy's hydrogen store. You can mix 5 and 8 kilowatt modules. Now, I thought that's not going to work because they've got different states of charge. They might not be charging at the same rate, but they have DC-DC converters on each battery. So it means you can mix old and new. And that's, especially with the battery rebate coming out now, that's pretty exciting that you can actually, upgrade a system that's 1 year old with some new batteries and no problem. Can't do that with most series connected batteries.
Yeah. So since you brought that topic up, that was sort of going to be one of my big ones. I think I'll still want to talk about after this the fact that they're not listed yet. They're a new company, all that kind of thing. But this is, I feel like I'm picking a fight with the wrong person here because you're going to just walk all over me with this argument. But we'll see. There's 10 cells in each module, right? You would have seen that at the factory. There's 10 cells. They're quite large cells. So you're getting 30 volts per module. Am I correct there?
It goes up to 32.85 volts, yes.
Sure, okay. Rightio. So each cell is 3 volts. Now, if you work this out, you could do this a lot probably in your head. But if you work that out, from what I understand, now we're talking about 133 amps or something like that, maybe 130 amps in each cell. That's a really high current is the first point. So my thought is high current in a cell a bad thing? It's obviously done, but I think the higher the current you get, the more heat you're going to get. And there's a point where you go, oh, well, let's whack cooling in here. When you start getting commercial batteries, which with much larger cells, you end up putting liquid cooling or some kind of active cooling on it. These are quite high voltage without any cooling at all, just natural cooling on them. Do you see that as a concern at all? Or?
Okay, let me just unpack that. So what they've got is a 32-volt nominal battery pack with a DC-DC converter that steps up to match the DC bus required for the PCE, the inverter. So if you've got a 3-phase inverter, it'll take it up to sort of 700 volts or so, 800 volts. Single phase around 600 volts. So that there is a high voltage side, but it's isolated. So it's basically got a air gap coupling via transformer, so there's isolation there, which is good. But you're right, there would be high currents in there, but it's still only half C charge, so it's the same as most LFP batteries. So it's 1C discharge, half C charge. So it's not really pushing the cells much more than anyone else is in terms of LFPs.
Right, but would you agree that there's a point with current when you get so high? I think that 130 amps in a cell, from what I've been looking into, is fairly high. They're quite large, quite high amp hour batteries, quite affordable. Given that, kind of explains that it's not the most expensive battery on the market, not the cheapest either. But you do have the downside of that is always going to be more heat when you've got higher current. At some point, something's got to give there. When you got more heat, you got less efficiency, I guess is one point, but also you've got a higher chance of failure. Maybe one good is throwing mud a little bit, but one good example of a high current battery might be the LG. And that didn't work out too well for them. It makes me nervous.
That was
I'm not the expert on this. I know you understand cells a lot better than I do. You've been doing it, for way longer. But
So I guess it's a scale thing. If you look at prismatic cells, which is what they use, 100 amp hour prismatic cells were pretty much the norm 2 or 3 years ago. Then there was the 150s, then 200s, then 280s. Now we're seeing 314s, 320s. So basically, the amp hour capacity and the physical size of the prismatics are going up and up. So the physical size going up means that you've still got the same surface, sort of current to surface area ratio. You've just got a bigger cell. It's not as if you're trying to pump 130 amps through a small cell's surfaces. So I don't think it's a big issue, that high current. Of course, I'm sure they've done all their research on the interconnects to have low resistance connections, but I haven't seen any evidence on it. But I'm sure they thought about that, because you don't want to waste energy as heat. And when you look at round trip efficiency, that tells you something about it too. So
is the round trip efficiency published on that?
Oh, geez, I can't tell you off the top of my head, but
I can't find it. That was going to be another one of my points. Why can I not find the round trip efficiency? Because then we've got a second point there. I'm thinking the heat in the cells. It's certainly on the upper end compared to like SunGrow and BYD. A lot higher current, and you naturally, I think, just get less efficiency when there's a reason that the BYD Fronius combination was really award winning with their high voltage battery rather than high current battery, because less efficiency losses. Then you've got a DC to DC converter. I'll go on if you like.
Yeah, I was actually just thinking I could try and find out from R&D, because I do have some contacts at R&D what the round trip efficiency is, and maybe I'll put that in the comments.
Yeah, sure. Yeah.
Description. Yeah.
And then I think going further on round trip efficiency, you've got this DC to DC converter stepping from 3 up to 600 volts, as you said, 30 up to 600 volts. Then you've also got to have efficiency losses at that point too. And this might seem like a little bit of a, sour grapes, or I've been burnt before. But the fact that the marketing department called that an optimizer, and you've got all these optimizers in there doing a hard job, doing a massive step up, and with high current on the primary, kind of concerns me, So
yeah, I mean, going from DC to AC compared to going from DC to DC is much harder. So converting DC to AC, irrespective of what the voltage difference is on either side, is a much more challenging, because you're actually going to switch the direction of current flow. And so you've got all these transitions in the switching. With DC to DC, the efficiency is extremely high. I mean, AERL held the world record at something like 99.8% for their MPPT. That's now pretty common in many inverters. Their MPPT is up in the 98, 99% DC conversion ratio. So I think the efficiency of that DC-DC converter is a pretty minor issue. I think the flexibility it gives you is the big plus, and also other companies are doing it too. So Anker with the Solix X1, it does the same approach. iStore, Huawei. You could say that Huawei really invented the idea, and others have brought it on.
That's what I heard. Is Anker also came out of? I don't know if that's true, but Anker actually came out of Huawei as well. So they all use the same idea.
I actually finished the audiobook, The House of Huawei. It's a really interesting lesson or read. It's an amazing company. It's not a hagiography by any means. So if you're interested.
Yeah, right. I guess so. To be fair, I'm a little bit out of my depth when I'm talking about this, but I do try to look at it as much as I can and kind of go, look at the Canberra Battery Test Centre, or whatever it was called, that's closed up now. I don't think anyone got off scot-free in that test. Everyone had issues. So batteries aren't a real simple, it's like, don't worry, she'll be right. It's kind of like, let's look at this critically and conservatively as we can. When I look at it from just my simple understanding, I kind of get nervous of, this brand new idea coming out. It's kind of like, solar edge optimizers, don't worry, she'll be fine. So I go, oh no, that's good. We've never had failures. I've been burned a few times before. I guess that's where I'm coming from.
So for those who are not familiar, the battery test centre, those reports are still publicly available. So it was funded through ARENA, and ITP Renewables built the facility, and it ran for about 3 years. It was a fantastic service. I'm just looking it up now. So yes, you can still download those reports. I think they kind of closed it too soon. We need it now because now we've got the battery rebate. It would be great to see some of that, unbiased engineering grade testing. And you're right, there were very few that got out of it without some significant problems. There was actually a couple. I remember if you look at the graph over 3 years, there were about two, which from beginning to end, they didn't fail.
Is that right? Okay, I didn't find any. I'd have thought, but
yeah. So it's worth having a look at. And there was some products that were really hard to test because of the way that the test conditions were set up. I think Tesla had troubles getting their product tested there because of their software control. So, there were some caveats on that testing.
Yeah, sure.
Okay, I think you also were kind of querying a company that's very young. They're only 3 years old, being a concern for you.
Look, I think that is the major concern for me, is that, given the idea of the Canberra Battery Test Centre, and this is a completely new technology, a new way of doing things. They're still waiting to get listed on the Hong Kong Stock Exchange. If that goes through, would give me a lot more confidence. Until now, I'm just thinking, man, I don't know why you'd risk your business on installing that product. To be fair, granted, I'm super conservative with the products I install. I think that's what my customers like about us, is that we don't take risks and we put on products that we really think are going to last, So.
Fair enough. I mean, you're right. They're a young company, 3 years old, but really they hit the ground running because they're all from Huawei. I mean, they're basically the cream of Huawei's solar division. So it's not exactly.
Now, do we know that? That's what they say, but do we know that for a fact that, that's what the rumor is, or the narrative is that they all came from Huawei? Do we know that for a fact? Or I know Tony obviously comes from there.
Yeah, well, I mean, I visited their factory, visited their HQ, and I was making some videos there. And everybody I asked, "Where did you work before?" Huawei.
Is that right? Yeah, right.
So like I say, they're a new company with experienced hands. I guess the other thing is, just because you've been in business a long time doesn't kind of make you guaranteed to be trustworthy. I mean, you could use LG as an example. The problems, the recall of LG.
Exactly, but they had when things went wrong, they had the resources to fix it up.
Yeah,
right, without bailing,
Yeah, that was a huge cost to them. People think it was the residential batteries, but it was in cars as well. Like my partner's Kona had LG cells in it, so they had to replace her whole battery pack in her car.
Never knew that.
Yeah, but credit to LG. They did a fantastic job of kind of fessing up. It's our problem. This is how it happened. We're going to fix it. I had 6 different LG battery systems here. Some of them embedded in other products like Vartar, Red Earth. Companies would use their cells or battery packs in their product. So it was quite a job to find them all. So then, to go to all the distributors and say, who did you send this to? And they got them all, or they got all mine. It took a while to find all. I was telling them, but they wanted to do it through their procedures, and they found them and either replaced or refunded.
Yeah, right. No. Hats off to them for at least doing it, but not pleasant if you were one of the customers or one of the installers that installed heaps of them, I guess. So.
Yeah. So I think, in summary, from my point of view, I think there is a high level of trust in a company that's young, that you trust them to want to sell their products. So I agree with that. But I kind of feel like sometimes innovation trumps longevity. I mean, they just wow me with their speed of accepting changes. Someone will say the warranty's not right or for the off-grid, and they fix it. little issues with the product. Like I got the very first gateway, and it wasn't really compliant with Australian standards. They redesigned the gateway in a matter of a month and made sure it was compliant. We actually had to rebuild it to make it compliant. Had 4-pole breakers in it rather than 3-pole. So they were switching the neutral as well. So that was kind of interesting. Yeah, but I sometimes joke, would you buy a digital camera from Kodak?
Yeah. I've heard you say that.
A 100-year-old company who just faded away because they didn't innovate. So that's one of the risks. I mean, I actually feel sad about some of the companies who have been around a long time that I love. I don't want to mention their names in case I upset them, but I don't want them to fade away.
Yeah, sure.
Because they haven't had a chance to innovate, and they're being swamped with clever new products.
Yeah, and there is no doubt that, thankfully, the world's not going to listen to me, and there'll be early adopters and companies that are willing to be earlier adopters, and that's how we get technology. Just for me, that's not my temperament. As I run a business, I'm not the early adopter. So
you've only got 3 systems to worry about.
Yeah. I think that hurt, but I could handle it. So,
Yeah. You've had a few bumps with other products as well, haven't you?
Yeah, I'm not the best at picking things. I mean, yeah. So, burnt a few times. So, yeah.
Cool. Well, I think that covered all the points I can think of. Unless you've got any others.
No, I think that's me too. I think so.
Hey, maybe we can swerve then to the battery rebate at the moment.
Yeah.
How's that going for you?
It's insane. Here's a little brag. I had Chris Bowen come out to one of our jobs on the 1st and on the 2nd of July, which was cool. And I sat down for a 10-minute interview with him or something like that on the 2nd day. So it's not a very good interview, but anyway, it was fun. So that was cool. But it's just gone insane, eh? So we've switched from, we would have done around about 5% battery adoption. 5% of our jobs had batteries on them. Because we just were like, well, it's not really a return on investment. At least up in Queensland, I don't think it is, Now, it's not a no-brainer for a battery, but now we're selling probably more than 95% of our jobs. Basically, every job that comes through has a battery with it.
Wow.
It's insane. So, my big job for the last week or two has been just trying to work out cash flow, because I need sort of $500,000 worth of batteries in my warehouse at any one time to keep the business running. So it's completely changed, and then just trying to procure stock. Man, some guys must be having a bumpy time if it's sort of man in a van and you're selling a battery and then you've got to wait 6 months to get it. It's just gone berserk. So in a good way. So.
Yeah. It's really stressing the whole supply chain. But we did have some warning. It was like a few months to get into it.
We had warning, and my supplier, Catherine, called up, I think, I don't know if it was after or before the election or whatever it was, probably just straight after the election, goes, oh, you're going to want to lock in stock. And I'm like, yeah, I don't know even how many we do. We don't, we do a handful a month. And she goes, I'll tell you what, I'm going to put 30 modules a month aside for you, pre-order them. I'm like, yeah, it sounds good. Is that too much? We're now doing, what was our record? I think in October we're doing something like 300 modules, basically 10 times that in the month of October. 2.7 kilowatt hour modules. So it's far beyond, like we were given a heads up, but I had no idea it was going to be this big. So.
How's the muscles going? You must be getting a good workout lifting all those.
Well, yeah, luckily it's not me that lifts them. So,
that's actually one of my pet hates is these big, heavy monoblock systems. I've had a few which are like 100 kilos plus just to manage them, move them around on a pallet and then try to stand them up, put them on the wall. Yeah, crazy.
Sure. The modular is such a better idea, I think so.
And I guess for cash flow, the other issue is how long is it going to take for those battery SCCs to flow through? Because the government is actually buying them. I think all the rec traders are struggling with all the redoing their forms and compliance requirements.
Yeah, and we're told it's going to take around about 4 weeks to get that payment. So just back of a napkin, I sort of worked out that's another $250,000 cash flow. Um, of yeah, it's going to be interesting. So yeah, a lot of calls to the accountant recently. Can we do this? So yeah.
So I was just seeing a post on LinkedIn about what the impact will be on the duck curve with this huge uptake of batteries at the residential level. I hadn't really thought about that. So maybe the duck curve's going to disappear.
Yeah, surely it's going to change. The way the grid runs, right? Massively. I think you've had a good point. Our last chat is saying that maybe there won't be such a need for VPPs, in the future when everyone's got a battery. So
yeah, and I mean, there was quite a good ABC a story on their podcast about VPPs, and they sort of interviewed various both customers and industry people about their experience, and it wasn't a very positive outcome. They were kind of pointing out that some customers are worse off when they went on a VPP because of the way the battery was being cycled. It was being discharged at peak price times, so they couldn't use their stored solar energy when prices were high.
Yeah, right. So yeah, you've certainly got to choose it carefully, right? So
yep.
I'm hoping that it'll work out because there's money there to be made, and as long as if the right plan comes along, surely it's going to be able to be a win-win, at least in the short term.
Yeah, even without a VPP or virtual power plant, for those not familiar with the acronym, I mean, the benefit to the grid of having less solar spill, as it's called, in the middle of the day, it's got to be good. And hence the problems with the duck curve. We're going to be soaking up some of that demand in the evening with all the rooftop solar. I mean, Australia's already number one per capita for solar. I think we'll be number one for battery pretty soon.
Yeah, right. I never knew that we're number one. Okay, interesting.
Well, for solar, by a long shot. Yeah.
Right.
I mean, with over 30% of all the homes in Australia with rooftop solar, it's an amazing achievement. And the fact that we've grown that industry so quickly over a 10 or 12 year period and trained up over 7,000 or 8,000 installers to install solar, it's fantastic.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, no, it's a good industry to be part of. That's for sure. So.
Yeah, my partners used to say that you walk around with a halo on your head, Glenn. you think you've got a halo on your head because you install solar. Yeah. Well, it is a good feeling, though. You are you're making a business out of it, but you are actually doing good. You're reducing emissions, and so it's got to be a positive.
Yeah, and that was the original motivation or thought process for me. I was hanging air cons before when I heard about solar. I'm like, oh, that sounds like a better thing to get up out of bed for, Be part of the solution, not the problem, So.
They're a perfect match, if you ask me. Aircons and solar. It's guilt-free aircon.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, especially if you've got a nice big 32 kilowatt hour battery or something. So.
Yeah. Hey, Mark. Well, I think we've covered it pretty well. You happy with that?
Yeah. No, that was good. Thanks for the chat, Glenn.
Cool.
Didn't come out. Didn't feel too bruised at the end of that. So.
Me neither. Yeah, you're good to talk to. You're a very honest man. Yeah.
Okay. Thanks, Glenn. Yeah.
Thanks very much for coming on Toolbox Tech Talk, and apologies everyone who's looking forward to DJ Glenmo with his gold chain. He just couldn't make it today. So anyway, I'll say farewell to Mark.
Thanks, Glenn. Catch you later.
See ya. Yep, well, that's another Toolbox Tech Talk in the bag. And apologies to those who thought it was going to be live on YouTube. I just clicked the wrong button and it went live to LinkedIn, X, Facebook. I'll have to upload this to my YouTube channel as soon as I can. But anyway, till next week, and I'm not sure who my mystery guest will be next week. I'll look forward. Well, DJ Glenn will be back next week, and he'll look after the guest, I think. All right, well, I'm out. Thanks, everyone.
thinking right now.